This is Author's Beat, where you meet fascinating writers and discover their books. I'm Mark H. Newhouse, your host. Have you ever dreamt of being published? Today we have a very special program with very special guests. Our guests today are involved in picture books. They are the authors and illustrators of their own picture books. One is called Cookies in Heaven, and it's illustrated and written by Charlene Ann Meeker, and it is available on Amazon. And the other book we have is Grandfather Tree, written and illustrated by Alanita C. Cooks. And we'll tell you where that's available too, but it is also on Amazon, right?
Right.
Good. Welcome, Charlene and Alanita.
Hello.
And I'm excited because, my dream has always been to have a picture book. So you must be so thrilled with this accomplishment. I want to congratulate you. Tell me.
Thank you.
What gave you the idea to do a picture book as opposed to writing, let's say, the great American novel?
Well, since my book is basically in poem, it's a poem actually, and I'm a teacher, former teacher, and
Where did you teach?
I taught at Dr. N.H. Jones Elementary in Ocala. My book, I don't know, everything I do, I can see pictures, So this poem that I wrote about Grandfather Tree, it just reminded me I love trees.
So you wrote the poem first?
Yes, I wrote the poem first, actually in 2001. And then when I came here, to Florida, that's when I decided, after coming to a group called CAT, Children's Author Team, I read my little poem.
And who was the leader of that?
Oh, Mark Newhouse.
Go ahead. Thank you for the plug.
Well, anyway, I read it to the group, and because, I really wanted to put it into a book form, mainly because I love trees, and I love the colors of the trees, the leaves, and just everything about it, the way they change in the weather and all. So I wanted to do this book, and then after I went to the CAT meeting, they told me all kinds of things and critiqued it and gave me some great ideas for a picture book.
Do you find it helpful? We've talked with this, about this with other authors. Do you find being in a critique group helpful or not?
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't write without it because they're so helpful. People, you're usually working with people who are experienced authors themselves, and they can always give you a different perspective, something that's going to be really great to help you and enhance you. Now, you do have to have a thick skin because, at first, because when someone starts critiquing your work, you're saying, it's almost like personal.
But it's nothing compared to, it's absolutely nothing compared to what happens when you send to publishers and get
you can't see them. You can't see them. These people are looking at you and talking about your work,
But Almina, they all love you.
I know. I found that out.
How about you, Char? Where did you get the idea from for your book?
I got the idea when my late husband passed away in 2007, and it was such a emotional time, but also a time of love and gathering of my family from California and all my friends here where I live, and the support and also especially my little granddaughter Lindsay, who was barely 4 at the time. So sweet and innocent, and the words that she said during the national the Bushnell National Cemetery. Yeah, where they were having this special service for Claude, who was in the Air Force for 20 years. People said to me afterwards, "Oh, you should write about this," and Lindsay's experience too with it.
So yours is based on something very sad that turned. It's almost like that expression when you get lemons, turn it into
lemonade.
Lemonade.
Yes,
It's a tribute,
yes.
really. Sort of like a tribute.
Yes, and you're right, Alanita. It was a tribute to my husband too, which he was so patriotic, and the love for his family, and I wanted to.
And that comes through in your book. It really does.
Thank you. Mark.
And Char, you've been an award-winning artist. I mean, you've done so many beautiful pieces of artwork.
Thank you.
How do you compare the job of being an artist to being a picture book artist and illustrator?
Well, I found that, I learned a lot. First of all, I learned that you have certain boundaries that you have to consider certain space issues, and also to make my illustrations very sharp, colorful. I used colored pencil and in some cases a little bit of watercolor, but I found that I had to go back and sharpen up a few things. So I've learned a lot, but
it's a little different, isn't it, though?
Yes,
You
it's
know,
different than just doing a painting for your own.
and a lot of people don't
self.
realize that. There are a lot of people who dream of having a picture book, and they don't realize it's just not as simple as they think. How did you get started in this? I mean, tell us a little bit about the mechanics. Once you had the poem, where did you go from there?
Well, to tell you the truth, my publisher told me, how difficult it was. They say the picture book is one of the hardest books to write because it's up to 32 pages and you can have about 28 pages of text and pictures. And, I didn't know all of that stuff, so naturally.
So there's a certain number of pages that the book has to be.
Yes,
up to 32 do you know why pages. That is?
I have no idea. Do you know?
Yeah, actually, it used to be because of the big printing presses. They used to have to be in multiples of 4 or 8 because of the big printing presses. Now, with digital printing, it's not quite as significant a problem, but, they still like multiples of 8.
Yes. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So well, once I found all that good stuff, I just kind of leaned on the publisher. I had in my mind, I had to make a dummy book, first of all, to say, because it was a poem, and to see what the text would be on one page and so forth, and make sure it was flowing.
So did you actually draw the pictures, or
yes.
did you storyboard it with stick figures? How did you do that?
I drew the pictures, I storyboarded, I did a little bit of everything. I even had, to try to make sure the characters were the same size or that at least looked the same. I made arms and things that would move and legs and stuff, and just kind of tacked on a little dog during the pages. But anyway, it was very hard. I had to go to the library. I had, I thought I had a little knowledge.
Had you read a lot of picture books as a teacher?
Oh, as a teacher, yes. So many, and that's why it looks so easy. But believe me, it is not easy.
Well, it's like
I agree.
It's like I see these dancers on You Can Dance.
Oh, yes.
So You Can Dance.
Oh, yeah.
And
Right.
it looks so easy. Then I try with my wife and flat on our rear ends. So you then sort of storyboarded it.
Yes.
Okay. And where did you go from there?
Well, from there, as I said, I leaned on my publisher, Mary Lois Sanders. I actually leaned on her because she was able to tell me, what I could do on each page. She used the text and would show me how the text would, be on each page. She asked me to draw all kinds of pictures.
So did you have the
colors.
illustrations already?
Oh, yes, I had the illustrations. And you know what she did? She made me do them over and over and over.
Well, did you do that to your students in school?
Yes, but I never thought it was going to come back on me.
Payback, right?
Shar, you're an artist. And, Alan, if I'm correct, this is the first time you actually tried something like this.
Yes,
right?
this was the first time.
I am so proud of her. I encouraged her because she showed me the rough draft of her first illustrations, and I thought they were so cute and not overly detailed, which kids love. Kids, you don't have to have everything perfect and professional looking always. Kids love the natural,
the simplicity.
Yes,
Yes.
she should have told Mary Lois not to have me do all those copies. I would have loved. Now you tell me.
And it's funny because when we do writing, I'm a perfectionist with my writing, and I will write the text over and over and over again.
Yes.
I'm very lucky. I can't draw a straight line, so I don't see myself illustrating a book. But Shar, you're an artist. How did you manage to finally say, okay, I want to do a picture book?
Well, like I say, with the experience of losing my husband and then all the emotions involved, I used to sit at night and in the evening and listen to the music channel and write in a journal. But then when several people said, Mom, you in my family, Mom, you should write a book about Claude, and then I decided to make it a picture book with Lindsay as my little granddaughter as the.
Can you share part of your book with us?
Sure.
Can you read? Would you like to read it, or would you like me to?
Well, I can read it, but do you want me to read just starting from the beginning?
Wherever you're comfortable. The book is called Cookies in Heaven. And
Cookies
Char,
in Heaven.
where is it available?
On Amazon, and
Is it on Kindle?
it's not on Kindle yet, but hopefully within this
Yeah,
year.
we recently put the Rockhound books on Kindle, and we couldn't do that before because there was a problem with pagination and getting illustrations on. But now you can get illustrations on a lot of the electronic books as well, and there's a whole new market for you to consider.
Oh, yes. Lindsay sat on the front porch eating a cookie. It was October and almost Halloween. The sunlight was warming the cool air. She watched a bumblebee fly over a pumpkin. It stopped on the bright orange flower close by. When she went back inside, she saw Mommy sitting quietly in the kitchen. "Come here, baby." She held 4-year-old Lindsay tightly. Grandma Shar called with sad news. "What's wrong, Mommy? Why are you crying?" "Grandma Shar says Papa Claude is very sick. He is in the hospital right now," she said, hugging Lindsay and wiping her tears away. Lindsay thought about what she could do. She loved her Papa Claude. At bedtime, Lindsay said a special prayer for her Grandpa Claude. The next morning, after Brother Jordan had gone to school and Daddy went to work, Mommy sat down at the computer to check for any new messages from Grandma Shar. Lindsay leaned against Sammy, the family dog. "Sammy, what can we do to help Papa Claude?" Sammy gazed up with her big brown eyes. Lindsay thought and thought. Suddenly, she jumped up. "I know! We can send him a kisses and hugs package." Lindsay called out as she ran through the house. A few minutes later, Lindsay dragged a box from the garage into the kitchen. "Is this one okay?" "Perfect size. Thanks, honey." Mommy stood up from the computer desk. "I'm so glad you had this wonderful idea." Lindsay opened the pantry doors. She looked at rows of cans and boxes. "What about soup, Mommy? And hot chocolate?" "Yes, the packaged soup and the cocoa mixes would be good to send. And sugar-free chocolates," said Mommy as she came into the kitchen to help. Soon the box was almost full. "What can we put in this space?" asked Mommy, pointing at the corner of the box. "How about marshmallows? I know these will make him feel a lot better," said Lindsay as she pulled a bag from the shelf. "Good idea. He will like them in his hot cocoa." "Do you remember when Papa Claude and Grandma Shar took you to feed the ducks at Lake Miramar?"
We're going to stop right there, and let's talk a little bit about this, okay? I think every family at some point or another faces this kind of a situation, you know, and I think this book would help children understand a little bit more, you know.
Yes, and Mark, in my revision, which I'm working on right now, I'm going to add a little bit at the end of the book, suggestions what parents can do to help their child get through the grief period, or whoever, you know, just little things like writing a letter, sitting down and writing a letter, like Lindsay could write a letter to Papa Claude and write in there what things she enjoyed doing with him and what she remembers about him. And also my daughter shared with me a little thing that you can do is release some balloons with notes in.
Oh, wow, that's
as a family little thing to do together.
I think this the kind of book that a mother might pick up for a child who's facing this kind of understanding of grief?
Yes, I think so. I've had a little bit of feedback from grandparents who have bought my book and shared with me that the older grandchild reading to the younger one, and even
that's a wonderful idea. Yeah, I like that.
And even my chiropractor bought a book, and his two were only, I think, 4 and 1 year old, and he loves reading it to them. So
you know, I always loved reading with my children and picture books.
Yes.
I mean, I was reading picture books with 6th graders, and I remember there were times where we had a very sad situation, and a book like yours would have been something that we could have really relied upon, because picture books have a special way about them. Alanita, how about you? Do you have an excerpt you could read to us from Grandfather's Tree? Is it what is
Grandfather Tree.
Grandfather
Actually,
Tree.
this is a book about a little boy who loves trees, and he saw one tree that reminded him of his grandfather. So we decided to have a conversation about it, and so this is basically from ages, actually up to grade 8.
Okay.
So this excerpt, I guess I could say, "Oh, I see trees for miles and miles, but you're the tree that brings me smiles. My Gramps is strong and tall to me. You look like him, Grandfather Tree." And since my book is short, I'm not going to read too much more. They have to buy it. It's good stuff.
Good idea.
Kids love.
It's a great.
Kids love rhyming poems.
Yes.
And I think they'll really love the rhythm of this, and it's fun too. Would you say there is a universal theme in your book that kids would enjoy?
Well, the universal thing, children love nature. They love trees. And not only is this little boy asking the tree how he feels, and how he smells and things like that, to see if the tree is like him. It's a universal thing to just be curious about things that are living.
Now, you've written other things as well, stories that I've had the privilege of reading. What responsibilities, what do you feel is different about your responsibilities in writing for children than, let's say, for adults?
Well, for one, you definitely have to make sure that you have some kind of a little message in there, some way to help this child appreciate life and love. And you also have to make sure that...
But you don't hammer them over the head with it.
No. You have to do it.
It has to be more subtle.
Yeah. You almost have to trick them. I hate to say it. You almost have to trick them.
A lot of the stories I get sometimes, as you know, I edit books as well. Some of the stories, they are so heavy with the message.
Right.
And both of your books are not at all heavy.
Well, you have to appeal to their sense of like. I mean, things that are going to appeal to them.
So it's almost like teach, but don't preach.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I couldn't have said it better.
And what do you feel your responsibilities are, let's say, as an author for children?
I think sharing the hope, when my late husband became ill, the hope that, like Lindsay's care package, Hugs and Kisses package, the hope
which is a wonderful idea, by the way.
Yes, the hope that, maybe he'll make it through, and yet the love and support that you have surrounding you, it's just something that I have a passion about writing about.
I'm so glad you said that word. A lot of people think that writing is to make money. And one of the things I look for is passion.
Yes.
Okay?
Definitely.
Is that something you also feel?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you have to love it. You have to really have
It's a
a
lot of work,
desire.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a lot of work. You have to love it.
And it can be discouraging at times, can't it?
Yes.
Yes, it's sometimes a long process, especially when we have to redo our illustrations.
Yeah, how about that?
Well, because with the illustrations, it's not like with the text where you can redo it by computer.
Right.
But that's curiosity is so important with children.
What do you
have
mean?
to constantly feed their curiosity. I mean, there's so many things that make them one way in or one way out devices. We have to, I guess instill or motivate them to
And
think.
something simple like a tree can inspire curiosity.
Oh, yes.
Can I just read one more excerpt real quick?
You're going to give us a spoiler?
One more,
Go
just
ahead,
one more.
absolutely.
When thunder booms, I run and hide. Do you wish you could come inside? Now think about it. The trees are out there with all that weather. It's something to think about.
And the
I wonder.
thunder is
Yes, do you think right?
almost happening.
One of the things I've noticed in picture books and in a lot of children's writing, and we always seem to have a problem with this, is the role of adults in a book. And I always love to give the example of Peanuts.
Okay.
And how expert Charles Schulz was as keeping adults out of the books.
That's my favorite.
What is the role of
cartoon.
adults in, let's say, a picture book?
First of all, you make sure that it's in the child's voice.
Now, what do you mean by that?
You're not going to use big words. You're going to, you're not going to go to the dictionary and use those.
But are you going to dumb
words.
down to the kids?
No, you're not going to dumb down. But you're going to help them to reach out without making them feel overwhelmed.
Okay, good.
And it's the child's thoughts and the child's ideas.
Right.
Or like our critique group helped me so much, especially you, Mark, helped me so much with my book. Making sure that Lindsay was the main person with the idea for the Hugs and Kisses package, even though Mom helped put it together.
In other words, who solves the problem in a children's book?
A child.
A child.
Right.
And I think that's such an important thing. It would be like writing Harry Potter and having the wizards
Right.
Yes.
solve the problems. And I think that's tough sometimes, isn't it?
It lets a child know that they can solve problems. That's
Right.
good. You know,
They
that's
can do
good.
anything
They can
they
do
want
anything
to.
they want. Yeah.
Which is what I think a picture book should do. Now, a lot of people have said, well, trees, animals, there isn't a big market for that now. And we're always told, don't write about talking animals. And yet, what do we see in the movies all the time?
Yes, all the latest animated movies, they all talk. All those creatures
Well, it's
talk,
because
right?
deep down we wish they could. First of all,
Yes,
we
yes.
wish that we wish.
Well,
they
that's
What
such
were
a
are they
good
there.
thinking?
Yeah,
What are they
we
thinking?
want. Yeah, what are they thinking?
When you were a child, Alanita, now where did you grow up?
I grew up in Washington D.C.
Okay, were you in a tough neighborhood or was it?
Well, I went from a tough neighborhood. Well, actually, I went from I would call a stone front to a place where there was grass and trees where I could run and
Ooh.
play.
Oh my
Nice.
goodness.
And it was just such a wonderful difference, to
Uh-huh.
be able to grow up in that kind of environment where you could ride your bike and fall over in a bush and things like that. When before, all I saw was a stone front. So
And
I think
who do you write for?
colors-
Do you write? Some children's writers are criticized because of the fact we're not writing for the children of today with their cell phones and with the violence all around them. I mean, both of you are writing themes that are kind of like, how can I put? Well, some people would say it's not realistic today. What do you say to people who accuse you of being, I guess, what do they call them? Wild-eyed optimists.
Well, I would certainly say maybe there's too much of what's going on now. It gives the child an opportunity to see a different side.
Yeah.
It's probably like a parent still taking a little one to the library instead of, turning them on to the little iPods for kids.
And also tablets.
From the beginning, I know my kids always took their little ones to the library as soon as they were 2.5, 3, and they love it. And actually holding a book. I mean, these are things that can never go away, right, Alanita?
They can never go away. As
And
a matter of fact, librarians actually ask you many times when they bring the children, they tell the child to hug the book.
Yes.
To bring
There
it
is no
back.
feeling like
Love
hugging a
that.
book compared
No.
to hugging a tablet.
Right.
And
No.
picture books until recently have been the last sort of refuge. They are so special. I've had older kids who have loved, the picture books I read to them. A book like The Giving
Yes.
Tree.
Oh yes,
Oh,
which was an
yes.
inspiration after I got here. But I started this in 2001, and I wish that perhaps I had gotten there first. But that was an inspiration. Some of the thoughts he had.
Well, I'll tell
Yes.
you, he was first published by Playboy magazine. So.
Oh no, okie dokie.
Oh,
Shel Silverstein, though, is
Yeah.
wonderful.
no.
I guess what I want to know now is, what books did you like as children?
I liked well, can I say more or less a book that I liked as a
Absolutely.
teacher? It was called Secrets in a Maple Tree. That also was an inspiration. And this little girl
Who was it
grew
by,
up.
do you know?
Actually, it was in a back-up book.
Oh, okay.
A back-up book publication. And this little girl would go out in the tree and tell the tree all of her secrets.
Oh.
And she would also tell her pain and everything else. The tree naturally couldn't answer her back, but she just felt such comfort in being able to express herself or talk to that tree.
And
That stayed with you all these years.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? How about you, Shar? What did you
Gosh,
what
I
books
can
did you like?
remember Tom Sawyer and all those wonderful classics, Anne of Green Gables.
And which are still thankfully being read.
Right.
today.
Yes,
Exactly.
and Anne of Green Gables spelled Anne with an E, and that's I made up my middle name because I didn't have one, and I put Anne with an E because of Anne of Green Gable books. And I loved all kinds of books that my aunt and grandmother used to buy us. Misty of
Chincoteague.
Yes,
Of course.
I didn't know how to pronounce that. Thank you, Mark. I loved that book. I always wanted a horse.
Really?
But
I wanted to tell you too. My mother used to always read books to me, and that just made me
Yeah,
love books.
that's-
First of all, I did the same thing with my daughter. And when a child wants a book instead of a toy for Christmas, I know you've done your job.
yes, amen.
You know, and I would love
Yes.
for people to realize that, because there's nothing more wonderful. As a father, I used to sit with my son every night and read to him
Yes.
every single night. And you know, it made me feel wonderful. And at one time, I remember when my son wanted to read something that I didn't really approve of, my wife was very, very concerned. And I took Mr. Popper's Penguins out of my closet where he'd been sitting there gathering dust since I was a little child. And I started reading it to him. And the next thing I knew, the book that I didn't want him really reading was gone. And Mr.
Yes,
Popper's
isn't that
Penguins
Oh,
lasted us
that's
a month.
neat.
When you are now a published author and you visit schools, and I know, Alanita, you've been visiting quite a few lately.
Yes, yes.
How does it make you feel when you get to work with the children?
Oh, the interaction with the children is just fabulous. Not only do, they really give me their attention, but they seem so interested. They want to know more. So talking about putting books or keeping our books and things at a certain level and away from certain things, or not bringing back the past or whatever, is really a misnomer, because children want to learn. They want to read and they want to interact with you.
I always say that when you write a book, it's like you're creating magic. It's a world that you're creating. And I like
Yes.
to say that we're creating a better world, because when people say to me, well, you're not writing for today's child, I think to myself, well, what I want to do is write a magic world that's better, so children will have a better world. And I take that responsibility very, very seriously, and I just am very excited that we were able to, have you on our program today. What advice do you have for the person who wants to write picture books? Char?
Oh, I would say go with your passion, and whatever you feel strongly about, go with what's in your heart, and you can do it. Anybody can do it. It's a little bit of work, but it's also it's a labor of love.
And there's a lot of rewards when you see a child
Yes,
smile.
yes.
Alanita, what about you? What advice do you have, and how can we get your book?
Well, first of all, you can get it on www.enlightenliterature.com.
Enlightened
Enlightenliterature.com.
Okay.
And what I would suggest to anyone who wants to write a picture book, put your ideas on paper, but by all means get someone who can actually edit your work. You want to give the child the best product they possibly can get, and you want to make sure it's, again, put your passion into it and do your very best.
Well, I want to thank our guests, Charlene Meeker and Alanita Cooks,
Thank you.
for the very
Thank you,
special,
yes.
talk about picture books, which is one of my favorites.